Welcome back, and thank you for tuning in to Midnight Affairs Tales. We appreciate every single one of you. We'd love to know what part of the world you are watching from right now. Let us know in the comments. Now, let's dive into today's story. Chapter 1. The ICU smelled like antiseptic and regret. Eric Monroe, Navy officer with 2 decades of discipline etched into his spine, stood frozen in the doorway. His uniform was wrinkled from the emergency flight. His boots still carried sand from his last deployment. But it wasn't the sterile machines or his daughter's broken body that made him shake. It was the voice. "Daddy, I saw Mommy kissing Mr. Daniel." The whisper came from Lily, 12 years old, face bruised, barely conscious. Her voice cracked like glass under pressure. She blinked slowly, drugged, bandaged, a small force snaking from her arm. Eric stepped closer, careful not to cry. "What did you say, sweetheart?" But she was already out again. The heart monitor continued its steady beep, oblivious to the bombshell dropped in that room. Teresa, his wife of 14 years, stood on the opposite side of the bed. Her face was pale, eyes swollen, but she wasn't looking at Lily. She was looking at her phone. Eric's jaw clenched. He'd been called home under family emergency orders. A hit-and-run. Lily had darted across the street near their suburban home. Teresa claimed it was sudden, unexpected. But something about her voice had felt off, too rehearsed. Now, with that one cracked whisper, everything shifted. Eric looked at Teresa. Really looked. No tear streaks. No panic. Just that phone, clenched too tight. The same phone she hadn't let go of since he arrived. "I need some air," he said, coldly. "Eric, wait," she reached out, but he was already walking. Out in the corridor, he leaned against the wall and slid to the floor, one thought spiraling like a war siren in his skull. She betrayed me. While my daughter lay broken in that bed, she was somewhere kissing him. Before we move ahead, I just want to say, your support truly means everything. We're building something special here, and our next big goal is reaching 10,000 incredible subscribers. If you're feeling the emotions in these stories, imagine what's still to come. Subscribe now, be part of this amazing journey, and let's keep growing together. Your one click can make a real difference. Let's continue the story. 2 months earlier, the Monroe house was a curated lie. Sunlight filtered through white curtains. Lily's laughter echoed through the living room as Eric video called from his base overseas. Teresa blew a kiss to the screen. "Stay safe out there, Commander," she said playfully. He smiled, tired but alive. Always. He didn't see the tension in her jaw. He didn't hear the soft vibration of a second phone hidden under the couch pillow. Back on base, Eric lived by routine. Chow at 0600, drills at 0900, strategy meetings into the night. But every chance he got, he checked in. Video chats, emails, care packages. He sent Teresa her favorite cinnamon soap. For Lily, he recorded bedtime stories with silly voices. He thought it meant something. But in the Monroe house, something had shifted. At PDA meetings, Teresa no longer mentioned Eric's rank with pride. At girls' nights, she laughed louder, stayed later. One friend noticed how close she sat to Daniel, another Navy vet, discharged quietly after an incident. "Daniel's just helping with the garage," Teresa would say. Only, Eric had never asked him to. Lily started acting out. Mood swings. Drawing dark pictures. When asked, she'd shut down or whisper, "It's just dreams." Eric thought it was the distance. The war. The world. It was betrayal brewing under his own roof. And when his deployment ended early due to base rotation, he planned to surprise them. He arrived at 2 a.m., flowers in hand. He opened the door with his own key and saw Teresa standing in the kitchen, in a silk robe, whispering into her phone. She jumped when she saw him. "You're early," she said. He smiled then, not because he was happy to be home, but because something inside him had just died. Lily's words haunted him. Eric waited until Teresa left the hospital room for her routine coffee run. She never invited him along. Today, she forgot her phone. It sat on the chair, face down, screen dim. Innocent. Eric picked it up. The passcode was the same, her birthday. How fitting. A day he once celebrated, Now the key to everything she'd been hiding. The screen unlocked. What he found wasn't just cheating, it was war. There was a folder in her messages labeled work stuff. Inside, hidden text with Daniel. Can't wait to have you all to myself again. He's back in a week. Just a few more nights. Lily saw us. I told her it was nothing. Eric's hand trembled. His eyes scanned faster than his brain could process. Dates, locations, emojis, even selfies, grainy, late-night shots of their kitchen, of his couch, his backyard. One message pinned at the top stopped his breath. It was never really about love. I just didn't want to feel alone again. He sat back in the plastic hospital chair, the phone still in his hands. His stomach turned. She hadn't just cheated on him, she'd used him. Lied to their daughter. Brought another man into his home, into their child's life. Lily had seen it all. And it broke her. That's why she ran. Eric understood now. He set the phone down slowly. Cold resolve flooded his veins. The kind of clarity that comes only after loss, not of a person, but of faith. No more asking. No more hoping. No more pretending. Eric Monroe wasn't just a husband anymore. He was a father. And he was going to make her pay. The house didn't feel like home anymore. Eric stepped inside the next evening under a fog of silence. The same living room where Lily used to build forts now felt like a crime scene. The sofa still held the imprint of someone who didn't belong. A smell lingered in the air, Teresa's perfume, and cologne that wasn't his. He looked around. Everything was in place, but nothing felt right. Teresa appeared from the hallway, wearing yoga pants and a fake smile. "You okay?" she asked, like nothing had happened. Eric stared at her for a long second. "Lily's stable. Doctor said she's lucky. Real lucky." "That's good." Her voice cracked slightly. He walked past her, straight to the kitchen, setting down his keys. He watched her shadow hover near the dining table, the same table where they celebrated Lily's birthday, where Daniel had once raised a toast. He didn't say a word about the phone. Not yet. Instead, he played his part. The loyal husband. The tired sailor. The man who hadn't just had his soul yanked through a shredder. Over dinner, he studied her. The way she avoided eye contact. The tension in her jaw. How she flinched when his phone buzzed, though it was just a Navy group thread. "Did Daniel come by while I was deployed?" he asked, casually slicing into a piece of overcooked chicken. She froze for a split second. Just once or twice." Fixing the garage light. "Why?" Eric nodded, chewing slowly. "Funny," he said. "Because the garage light hasn't worked in 3 months." She blinked. Must have broken again. Eric's lips curled slightly. This wasn't a woman hiding a fling. This was someone drowning in secrets and didn't know she'd already been caught. It was late. Lily shifted under the hospital blanket, her arms twitching gently. Eric sat by her side, eyes burning from sleeplessness. The machines beeped a slow, metronomic rhythm, the only sound in the dim room. She stirred. "Daddy." Eric leaned in. "I'm here, Bug. I'm right here." Her hand reached out. He took it gently. Her voice was groggy, but her words came out with a clarity that cut deeper than any knife. "I saw them. In the kitchen." He kissed her. Eric didn't interrupt. He hugged her from behind. "Mommy told me not to say anything. Said it was a misunderstanding." His breath caught in his chest. "When was this, Lily?" "A few weeks ago. Before your birthday." Eric's jaw tightened. That night, he'd called from base. Teresa had seemed flustered. Said she was just tired. Lily's eyes welled with tears. I thought she loved you." "She doesn't love anyone right now," he whispered. Lily nodded slowly, then said something that shattered him completely. "I thought it was my fault. I told her I didn't like Mr. Daniel. She got mad. Then I ran." Eric froze. "What do you mean, baby?" "You ran." Lily turned her head. "I ran after school, after seeing them again. I crossed the road without looking. I just wanted to get away. And there it was. Not just betrayal. Negligence. Emotional harm. A daughter pushed into traffic because of secrets too heavy for her to carry." Eric didn't cry. Couldn't. Instead, something inside him locked into place. Whatever softness he still held for Teresa evaporated. The next morning, Eric returned home with military precision. He walked in, kissed Teresa on the cheek like nothing had changed, and went straight to the office. A small room filled with tax documents, photo albums, and decades of memories. He opened a drawer and pulled out a red folder. Inside were files from deployments, scanned copies of important documents. But now, it would serve a new purpose. He started printing screenshots from Teresa's phone. The texts, the timestamps, the images, every digital scar. He called in a favor from a Navy buddy, now working cybersecurity. I need metadata. GPS logs. Everything. Eric said. I'll have it in 24 hours, came the reply. That evening, he sat at the desk and began writing. Not a journal, a timeline. March 3rd, Teresa and Daniel exchange messages confirming an overnight stay. March 5th, Lily has emotional outburst at school, counselor notes parent tension. March 7th, phone location places Teresa's device at Daniel's apartment for 2.3 hours. Every line built the case. Every sentence etched betrayal into fact. Downstairs, Teresa called out, "You coming to bed?" Eric replied, "In a minute." He stayed up till dawn. By morning, the red folder had a new name, Custody War File. And it wasn't just for revenge anymore. It was for Lily. The camera was tiny, barely the size of a coin, hidden inside the smoke detector in the living room. Eric installed it that evening, once Teresa left to check on Lily's clothes at the hospital. She didn't offer to take him, just grabbed her keys, phone, and disappeared. The installation took 5 minutes. The decision to do it took 2 seconds. He positioned the lens to capture the living room, kitchen entryway, and part of the hallway, just enough to monitor who came in and what they did. By midnight, the camera captured movement. Eric watched from the upstairs office. Teresa returned alone. She didn't know she was being recorded as she checked her reflection in the mirror. Not to cry, to reapply lipstick. Then she poured a glass of wine and sat on the couch, phone in hand, legs tucked beneath her like a teenager waiting for a call. It came. She smiled. Her voice dropped to a soft, sultry register. "Yes, he's here. Upstairs. Don't worry, he doesn't suspect anything. I told him I've been stressed." Pause. A soft laugh. "Yeah, I miss you too." Eric stared at the screen, jaw tight. Then, Teresa's voice shifted, defensive. "No, I didn't tell her. She's a child, Daniel. What am I supposed to say? Hey Lily, your dad's back, and I'm still cheating." She took another sip. Eyes glossy. Voice lower. "I just want it to be over. I'm so tired of pretending." Eric paused the feed. Her words didn't sting. Not anymore. They confirmed what he already knew. She wasn't just lying to him. She was using their daughter as a shield. He downloaded the footage and stored it in the red folder's encrypted drive. This wasn't about infidelity now. It was about psychological damage. She thought he didn't suspect. She had no idea he was 5 steps ahead. The knock on the door was casual. Eric opened it with the calm of a man hiding a storm. Daniel stood there, wearing a smug half-smile and a leather jacket like he was starring in his own bad movie. "Eric," he said, offering a hand. "Heard you were back. Thought I'd drop by, say hi." Eric didn't shake it. "You hungry?" Daniel blinked. Sure." Inside, Teresa looked like she'd seen a ghost. Eric set the table for 3. Teresa's eyes darted between the two men. "You didn't tell me Daniel was coming," she said, forcing a smile. "I didn't know," Eric replied. "He just dropped by." Dinner was spaghetti and silence, the kind that feels sharp around the edges. Daniel tried to keep the conversation light. "So, Eric, how's Navy life treating you? Still giving orders?" Eric sipped his water. "I'm on personal leave now. Been thinking about what really matters." "Like what?" Daniel asked, chewing loudly. Eric looked him straight in the eye. "Truth. Loyalty. Family." A pause. Forks clinked against plates. Teresa's hand trembled slightly as she cut her food. Daniel chuckled. "Heavy stuff for a Tuesday night." Eric leaned forward. "Tell me, Daniel, you still see your therapist?" Daniel's face twitched. Teresa froze. Eric continued, voice calm. "Last time we spoke, you mentioned therapy. After that, Dishonorable discharge. What was it? Insubordination? Or something worse? The room dropped 10 degrees. Daniel set down his fork. I think I should go. Stay, Eric said, smiling thinly. We haven't even had dessert. Teresa stood abruptly. Enough. Eric rose too. Yes, it is. Daniel left without dessert, without saying goodbye. Teresa tried to speak, but Eric walked right past her and upstairs, leaving behind the sin of power reclaimed. That dinner wasn't a confrontation. It was a warning shot, and the next one would hit. Morning light crept through the blinds as Eric stood in front of the mirror, tying his watch strap like he was back in uniform. Everything was methodical now. His days had order, purpose. He wasn't just reacting, he was constructing. He had already sent a flash drive with edited footage and messages to his attorney. The man had called him back that same night. This is solid. She's negligent, emotionally reckless. If we push now, we can file for emergency custody, claim psychological endangerment. Eric nodded. Do it. He spent the next 2 days collecting loose threads. School records showing Lily's declining behavior. Counseling notes from her last session, withdrawn, emotionally unstable. Old emails where Teresa lied about Eric's return dates to the school. We don't want to confuse Lily, she had said. Every puzzle piece clicked into place. The picture it revealed wasn't just infidelity. It was manipulation. Of Eric. Of their daughter. Of reality itself. Later that afternoon, he visited Lily's favorite teacher, Mrs. Collins. She hugged him tightly. Lily's strong, but she's been hurting for months. We thought it was your deployment. Eric shook his head. It wasn't me. It was what she was living with. Mrs. Collins hesitated. I probably shouldn't say this, but Lily once told me, Mom lies a lot. She thinks I don't know. That night, Eric added the final notes to his custody declaration. Under cause, he wrote, betrayal is one thing, but weaponizing a child's trust is unforgivable. The next move wasn't revenge. It was liberation. And Teresa was about to lose everything she'd taken for granted. Teresa stood in the doorway of Lily's hospital room, arms crossed, eyes scanning Eric like he was the outsider. You've barely spoken to me in 3 days, she said flatly. Eric didn't look at her. He was spoon-feeding Lily mashed potatoes, wiping her chin like only a man who'd actually been there would know to do. Teresa stepped closer. Eric, we're both tired. Maybe we should talk. Properly. Now he turned to face her, slow, composed, eyes unreadable. Talk about what? He said. How your boyfriend is ducking my calls now. Or how our daughter's trauma might have your fingerprints on it. Teresa blinked. I never meant for any of this to happen. Eric stood up, gently tucking Lily's blanket tighter before stepping into the hallway with her. You didn't mean to get caught. That's all. Her voice shook. It wasn't just cheating. I was drowning, Eric. You were never home. His expression hardened. So you lit the house on fire and blamed me for not noticing the smoke? She flinched. You brought another man into our daughter's life. Lied to her. Let her carry your secrets. Do you even know what that does to a child? Teresa's composure cracked. I love her. No, Eric said, voice like ice. You love being needed. Not the same thing. She stood silent as he walked away, every footstep echoing the finality of what was coming. Teresa didn't know it yet, but she just lost the right to speak for their family ever again. The attorney's office smelled like old leather and justice. Eric sat across from Mr. Lambert, ex-military, now a high-powered family lawyer with a reputation for turning emotional wreckage into airtight courtroom victories. Lambert flipped through the red folder without a word. Page after page, texts, photos, camera stills, timeline entries. You've got her, he finally said, tapping one page. This message alone, the one where she admits Lily saw them, that's grounds for character damage. We'll push for emergency full custody. Eric nodded, eyes sharp. Lambert leaned forward. You want to go quiet or public? Eric didn't hesitate. Quiet, until it needs to go loud. We'll file today. I'll serve her with papers tomorrow, neutral ground. We'll call a family conference under the guise of discussing Lily's recovery plan. Let her walk right into it. Eric exhaled slowly. And Daniel? We can subpoena his records, his discharge reason, therapy files, all admissible if it affects child safety, especially if she exposed Lily to him knowingly. Eric's jaw clenched. She did. Lambert nodded. Then we hit her with everything. On the way out, Eric paused in the lobby. There was a photo of a lion framed on the wall with the words, "Protect what matters most." He stared at it for a long time. This wasn't about betrayal anymore. This was war, and he was fighting for his daughter's peace. The conference room at St. John's Pediatric Wing had fluorescent lights and chairs too small for grown-up emotions. Eric arrived early. He arranged the chairs carefully, placing Lily's medical reports neatly on the table. A printout of her psychologist's report sat atop the stack, underlined in red. Patient expresses deep distrust in maternal figures. Notes of suppressed trauma and secrecy. The door opened. Teresa entered, holding her purse too tightly. Behind her, her parents followed, confused but calm. And then came Daniel. Eric didn't blink. "Oh," Teresa said, her voice brittle. "I didn't know you'd all be here." "You invited him?" Eric asked, eyes on Daniel. He's been part of Lily's life," she stammered. "Exactly the problem," Eric muttered. A nurse stepped in. "Doctor will join us shortly. You may begin." Eric stood. "Before we discuss Lily's care, there's something important I need to address." He opened the folder and laid down the first photo, Teresa and Daniel, time-stamped, locked in an embrace. Her mother gasped. Her father leaned forward, eyes narrowing. "What is this?" her mother whispered. Eric dropped a second printout, then a third, then the screenshot of texts. Daniel stepped back. Teresa's lips moved, but no sound came. Eric looked her dead in the eye. "Lily didn't just survive an accident. She survived you." Her parents were silent, ashamed, crushed. Teresa collapsed into the chair. "You used a child to cover your tracks," Eric said. "I'm filing for emergency custody, and I will win." Daniel bolted for the door. Eric didn't look at him. His eyes never left Teresa, the woman who once vowed to be his home. No? She was just another enemy on the wrong side of the fight. Teresa didn't cry in the hospital lobby. She shattered. After the conference room imploded, she stumbled down the corridor like a marionette with cut strings. Her mother tried to hold her by the shoulders, but she jerked free. "I didn't mean for this," she whispered. He wasn't supposed to find out like this. Eric stood at a distance, watching with arms folded. Not gloating, not smirking, just silent, cold, focused. Teresa looked at him, really looked, and for the first time, she saw a man who wasn't broken, but forged. "Eric," she croaked, "please, you don't have to do this." He tilted his head. "I don't." She stepped closer, frantic. "You're not like this. You've always been fair, rational. You said we'd raised Lily together." Eric took a slow step toward her. "You raised her with someone else while lying to my face for years. You lied so deeply you convinced yourself it was love." He pointed at the folder now tucked under his arm. "You broke her, Teresa. Not me. This is what you built." Daniel was gone. He'd fled the moment the evidence surfaced, like a roach exposed to light. Her father stepped forward. "We trusted you. We defended you." Teresa's voice cracked. "I didn't want to be alone." Eric's voice turned to stone. "Then learn to live with the silence." He walked away without another word. And for the first time in a decade, Teresa didn't chase after him. She just collapsed into her chair, surrounded by whispers, by judgment, by the ruin of her own design. It started with an official envelope. Teresa received it at her parents' house 3 days later. From the dinner, from the hospital conference, from Lily's therapy session with proper consent. "Truth doesn't need a performance," Eric said quietly. "It just needs a platform." When the hearing date came, Eric walked into that courtroom not as a man begging for his child, but as a father protecting her. He wore his navy blues. Teresa arrived late, her lawyer unprepared, her face hollow. She looked over at Eric once. He didn't blink. When the judge read the motion, Teresa's lips quivered. Petitioner requests full custody due to negligence, emotional trauma inflicted on minor child, and sustained deception undermining co-parenting foundation. She tried to object, but her voice broke. The judge set the next hearing for 2 weeks, allowing time for investigation and psychological review. But the tone was already clear. Eric wasn't the man she once betrayed. He was the man she never truly understood. For days after the court session, Teresa sat in a small, cold room across from a state-appointed psychologist, Dr. Reeve. He clicked his pen, laid his notepad on the desk, and asked a question she hadn't prepared for. "Do you love your daughter, Mrs. Monroe?" "Yes," she whispered. "Then why did you expose her to a man with a dishonorable discharge you knew nothing about?" Teresa stammered. He was helping me cope. "I didn't realize, but your daughter did," Reeve said sharply. "She told school staff that she felt uncomfortable, that you were hiding things. You dismissed that." Tears welled in her eyes. "I thought she was acting out because Eric was gone. And when she confronted you, I told her she misunderstood. I didn't think she'd get hurt, but she did," Reeve cut in. "And not by traffic." Teresa started sobbing. "I just didn't want to be alone. I wasn't trying to hurt anyone." He paused. "That statement alone shows poor insight. You centered your needs above your child's emotional safety. That's not unintentional neglect. That's dangerous parenting." She gripped the chair, breath shaky. "What happens now?" Reeve closed his notepad. "I submit a report. The court decides custody. But off record." She looked up, eyes red. "You may love Lily, but right now, you're not fit to raise her." Eric stood in Lily's hospital room, watching her sleep with a small stuffed turtle clutched against her chest, the same one she'd had since she was 5. Her breathing was shallow but peaceful now, her face no longer tense like before. He stepped quietly to the corner drawer and opened it. Inside was a small album Teresa had left earlier, family photos meant to comfort Lily. Eric picked it up, flipping through. There they were: family beach trips, birthdays, backyard cookouts. Teresa's smiling face in almost every one. Daniel even appeared in some, standing just off to the side. He stared at one image, Teresa and Lily blowing candles together at her 7th birthday. Daniel in the background, his hand barely brushing Teresa's lower back. Subtle, intentional, sickening. Eric pulled the photo out of the sleeve and tore it straight down the middle. Behind him, the nurse peeked in. "You okay, Mr. Monroe?" Eric turned slowly. "Yeah, just cleaning up the past." He returned the album to the drawer, lighter now, stripped of the rot. That night, he whispered to Lily, "You're not going to grow up doubting what love is, Bug. I swear to you, I'll build us something better." Because this time, he wasn't just trying to win custody. He was preparing to raise his daughter without a single drop of lies. Lambert called him 2 days later. "She cracked," he said over the phone. Psych evaluator filed early. Her insight score was abysmal. She blamed stress, loneliness, and, wait for it, you being too perfect. Eric snorted. "That's a new one." She told the evaluator she felt invisible in your shadow, like she needed someone else to remind her she mattered. Daniel was her mirror, not her man. Eric was silent for a moment. She weaponized self-pity to justify destroying a home. Lambert didn't argue. "We've got the judge's attention now. One more strong blow, and you'll be granted permanent custody, or at least long-term full rights pending final trial." Eric's thoughts turned to Daniel. "I want him exposed too," he said. "You mean legally?" "I mean publicly. People need to know what kind of man he is." Lambert hesitated. "If you go scorched earth, it could impact Lily." "You sure?" Eric's voice didn't waver. "He inserted himself into my daughter's life without permission. He knew what he was doing. That's not a mistake. That's predatory." Later that night, Eric compiled everything into a separate USB, Daniel's discharge paperwork, verified by Lambert's investigator. Old social media messages showing flirtation with Teresa going back almost 5 years. Then he sent it all, anonymously, to Daniel's workplace HR department. Within 48 hours, Daniel was suspended. He sent Teresa one message: "You dragged him into this. Now watch him crawl back out." It was a Sunday when Teresa was allowed her first supervised visit with Lily. The visitation center was neutral, painted in soft yellows, chairs bolted to the floor, toys stacked in sanitized bins. A female staff member sat at the edge of the room, clipboard in hand. Eric brought Lily in himself. "Do I have to see her?" Lily whispered, clutching his hand. He knelt. "No, you don't have to talk. Just sit with her. I'll be right outside the glass." She nodded, lips tight. Teresa sat on the far side of the room when they entered. She stood quickly, eyes glassy. "Hi, baby." Lily walked in slowly and sat on a small beanbag chair. Teresa lowered herself to her level. "I missed you." Silence. The staff member observed, pin hovering. "I know I made mistakes," Teresa continued. "But you're my girl. I never stopped loving you. I was just confused. Mommy got sad sometimes. That doesn't mean I stopped being your mom." Lily finally looked up. Her voice, soft but firm. "Then why did you lie?" Teresa froze. "I saw you. I heard you," Lily whispered. "You told me to forget it, but I couldn't." Tears spilled down Teresa's cheeks. "I thought I could fix it. I thought if I just waited." Lily shook her head. "You broke it. You didn't fix anything." Outside the glass, Eric watched, heart caught in his throat. The staff member wrote something down. After 20 minutes, Lily stood up and walked toward the door. Eric knelt again as she stepped out. "You okay?" Lily nodded. "Can we go home now?" He kissed her forehead. "Yeah, bug. Let's go." As they left, Teresa slumped forward in her chair, hands over her face, crying alone in a room full of echoes. And for the first time since the accident, Lily didn't look back. The courthouse lobby buzzed with voices, lawyers in suits, and the rustle of case files. Eric sat on the bench outside courtroom C, Lily's stuffed turtle poking out of his backpack. Not for Lily this time, for the judge. Lambert appeared beside him. "You sure you want her to testify?" Eric nodded. "No graphic details. Just truth. She's ready." Lambert gave a tight nod. "Then let's put her truth on the record." Inside, Teresa sat stiffly beside her new attorney. Younger, inexperienced, flipping through papers like a college student prepping for an exam. Eric's name was called. He rose calmly and stepped to the front. The judge, silver-haired, sharp-eyed, looked him over. "Mr. Monroe, you're requesting full custody. Any final statement?" Eric pulled the stuffed turtle from his bag and placed it on the desk. "This was Lily's since she was 5, he began, voice steady. She held on to it through every deployment, every goodbye. Even in the hospital after the accident, she wouldn't let go." He looked directly at Teresa, and when she finally did, it was only to take my hand. The courtroom was still. Eric continued, "I'm not asking for custody out of anger. I'm asking out of duty. Because when Lily was drowning in confusion, I was the one she trusted to carry her back to shore." The judge didn't respond right away, but she didn't need to. Her silence held weight, the kind that crushed arguments before they began. And in that moment, Eric knew the tide had turned. Teresa didn't leave the courtroom right away. She sat in silence even after the judge recessed. Her lawyer leaned over. We should prepare for worst case. The recommendation is in favor of the father." Teresa didn't blink. Her hands trembled. She whispered, "He's going to win, isn't he? Unless we get something to counter his claim. Something big." But Teresa had nothing left to pull. No leverage. No angle. Outside, Eric waited with Lambert. The hallway was quiet, until a familiar voice echoed down the corridor. "Daniel." He looked worn, unshaven, coat wrinkled. His job suspension had gone public, and his landlord had served him notice. "You really screwed me," he muttered to Eric. "All because I loved her." Eric didn't even flinch. "You loved having access. You loved attention. But you didn't love anyone." Daniel stepped closer. "You think you're better than me? She didn't just lie to you, pal. She told me the kid might not even be yours." Lambert stepped forward. "That's enough." "No," Eric said, voice low. "Let him talk." Daniel grinned, broken. "You sure Lily's your blood?" Eric's jaw locked. And then he smiled. "I don't need her to be," he said quietly, "because I've been her father every damn day." Daniel laughed bitterly and walked away, a man with nothing left but spite. And Teresa? She stood behind the glass doors, having heard it all. Her face said it clearly. She'd finally realized the storm she set in motion could never be undone. That night, Eric sat at the kitchen table. Alone. Lights off. Just the glow of a single desk lamp and a DNA test kit sitting unopened in front of him. Lambert had sent it. Just in case. Eric stared at it for a long time. The envelope. The swab. The instructions. He knew what it could mean. If Daniel had told the truth, if Lily wasn't biologically his, it would change everything, legally, emotionally, historically. But still, he hesitated. He thought back to when Lily was 3 and called him Dada while learning to walk. To the time she cried into his shirt when nightmares hit. To the moment in the hospital when she reached for his hand instead of Teresa's. Those memories didn't need a blood match. But still, the question lingered. He reached for the kit, then stopped. Instead, he opened a drawer and pulled out a small frame. Lily's drawing of them from years ago. A stick-figure Navy dad holding hands with a little girl under a blue sky. The caption scrawled in shaky handwriting, "Me and my hero." Eric smiled softly, then stood and walked to the fireplace. He tossed the DNA kit in without opening it. Flames rose. Plastic cracked. Paper curled into ash. Because truth wasn't in a test tube. It was in the bond they'd already built, stronger than blood, deeper than DNA. And no one, not Teresa, not Daniel, not even a judge, could take that from him. 3 days before the final custody hearing, Teresa made her last desperate play. Eric got the message while picking Lily up from school. A voicemail, clipped and frantic. "Eric, please, can we talk? Just us. I need to explain something before court. It's important." He almost deleted it, but he didn't. Later that night, after Lily fell asleep hugging her turtle, he met Teresa at a cafe halfway between their homes. Public place. Neutral ground. No performance. She arrived already teary-eyed. "Thank you for coming," she said, sitting across from him like a stranger. Eric said nothing. "I've lost everything," she whispered. "My job. My parents barely speak to me. Daniel's gone. And Lily, she won't even look at me." "You earned that," Eric said flatly. "I know." She pulled a small notebook from her bag. Worn, torn pages. She pushed it toward him. She started journaling before the accident. "I found this when I was packing my things. I didn't read much. I couldn't. But maybe you should." Eric took the notebook with steady hands. Opened to a random page. "I feel like I'm living in 2 houses. One has Dad's voice in it, even when he's gone. The other one has secrets in every drawer." He didn't speak. Teresa wiped her eyes. "I ruined everything. But I need you to know, I never hated you. I was just stupid. Weak. You never deserved any of this." Eric stood. "I'm not here to forgive you," he said. "I'm here to protect what's left." He left her at that table, surrounded by the echoes of her own regret. And in that moment, Teresa realized. Apologies don't repair what's already been reduced to ash. The courthouse was full. Even the air felt heavier. Eric walked in with Lambert, a stack of documents in hand, but not heavy with fear. He'd done everything. Left no corner unchecked. No thread hanging. Teresa entered minutes later, alone. Her lawyer had stepped away from the case the day before. Conflict of values, the clerk had said. The judge entered. Everyone stood. Silence. Then, the verdict. After reviewing all submitted evidence, psychological evaluations, and testimonies, this court grants full legal and physical custody to Eric Monroe. Visitation for Teresa Monroe shall be subject to supervised review once per month, pending reevaluation after 1 year. Teresa closed her eyes. No tears this time. Just silence. Eric nodded once, not in celebration, but in responsibility. It wasn't a win. It was a duty fulfilled. Lily sat in the hallway with a counselor, coloring while she waited. When Eric walked out, she looked up. "Well?" she asked. Eric knelt beside her. "You're coming home, Bug. For good." She smiled. A small, soft smile. Then leaned into him and whispered, "I knew you'd protect me." The Monroe house hadn't felt like home in months. Eric unlocked the front door that evening and stepped into silence. He'd removed Teresa's things weeks ago, but now it was time to rebuild. He let Lily walk in first. She paused in the doorway, like she was waiting for something bad to jump out. Nothing did. Instead, Eric took her hand and said, "You want to change things around?" She nodded slowly. "Can we paint my room purple this time?" He smiled. "Any shade you want." They spent that night clearing out closets, rearranging furniture, taking down old photos and putting up Lily's artwork instead. At one point, Eric opened a drawer and found an old framed picture. Him, Teresa, and Lily at a beach. A snapshot of a lie. He set it down face first. Not with rage, just finality. Later, Lily helped him hang a new frame in the hallway. Her crayon drawing of the two of them flying in a cape and uniform. "Super Dad," it read. When she finally went to bed, she asked him to stay a little longer. "Just until I fall asleep," she whispered. Eric sat at the edge of her bed, brushing her hair back gently. "I'm not going anywhere." And this time, he meant it with every inch of his soul. It was the first peaceful morning in months. Sunlight spilled through the windows of the Monroe house. Lily ate cereal at the kitchen island, swinging her legs, humming quietly to herself. Eric made pancakes, actual ones, not just toast and scrambled eggs. "Chocolate chips or blueberries?" he asked. "Both," she grinned. He laughed, flipping the batter onto the pan. It felt normal, real. Like the storm had passed and left behind stillness, the kind you can finally breathe in. Lily's room had been repainted. Purple walls now held paper butterflies and shelves with her favorite books. Her bed was full of pillows. Safety. Eric looked over as she started drawing again, another stick figure of the two of them under a rainbow. "You're my forever," she'd written in the sky. His phone buzzed. Unknown number. A message. "You should know the truth before someone else tells her. Ask Teresa about the letter. She never gave it to you." His stomach turned. He didn't want more secrets. But he couldn't let anything blindside Lily again. That evening, after Lily fell asleep, Eric sat at his desk and dialed Teresa's number. She answered on the second ring. "What is it?" she asked, tired. "Someone texted me. Said there's a letter. Something you didn't give me." There was silence. Then a long, shaky sigh. "I was going to burn it," she whispered. "But I couldn't. It's from years ago. Daniel left it. After Lily was born." Eric leaned forward. "What does it say?" "You should read it yourself," she said. "I left it with the court files. I didn't want to ruin what little peace you found." But peace was already cracking. Because some lies rot slowly and smell worse the longer they're buried. Eric picked up the envelope the next morning from Lambert's office. No return address. Just his name. And a date. 12 days after Lily's birth. He opened it, hand steady, eye sharp. The letter inside was handwritten. Sloppy. Panicked. "Eric, if you're reading this, I've probably left again. But I needed you to know. I think Lily might be mine. Teresa swore it was just one time, but I was there before you came back on leave. The timing lines up. I asked for a test. She refused. Said it would destroy everything. I wanted to fight for her. For the baby. But Teresa begged me to disappear. Said you'd never survive knowing. I'm sorry, man. I really am. But I couldn't pretend I didn't feel something every time I saw Lily. She looks like me. You deserve the truth, even if it's years too late." Eric reread the final line 3 times. "She looks like me." The air around him vanished. The letter fell from his hand. Not because he believed it, but because he had thought it too. Once. Long ago. He buried the thought. Denied it. Refused to give it power. But now, with proof Teresa hid it, with Daniel's words on paper, the suspicion morphed into something colder. Doubt. Eric stood in front of Lily's bedroom door, the letter still in his hand, his pulse raging. He watched her sleep. Peaceful. Whole. Everything he'd fought for. And now this? He stepped outside, sat on the porch, and stared at the night. Lambert called a few minutes later. "I got your message," he said. "You want to reopen the paternity claim?" Eric didn't answer right away. "I want to protect her," he finally said. "But how do I protect her from a truth that might destroy her identity?" "You don't have to tell her," Lambert said gently. "You can file quietly. Confirm the facts. Then decide. Eric closed his eyes. She's my daughter, he said. Blood or not. But if Daniel's her biological father, legally, that could change visitation, custody, everything. And if it's just a lie? Lambert asked. Then I bury it. For good. Eric hung up. And for the first time since the accident, since the betrayal, since the court. He didn't know what move came next. Not because he was afraid, but because the war had shifted from the courtroom into his own heart. Eric couldn't sleep. Not after reading that letter. Not with its words replaying in his head like a broken record. She looks like me. The house was quiet. Midnight shadows stretched across the floor. He walked slowly toward the hallway and stopped in front of the mirror beside Lily's door, the same one Teresa had hung up years ago. He stared at his own reflection first, worn, weathered, then glanced to the side, where Lily had taped a drawing last week, the two of them holding hands in front of a giant cake. She'd written above it, "Me and Dad's Pancake Day." He looked at the drawing, then at his own face, then Lily's room. He didn't need a test to know how much she looked like him, or didn't. But the mirror wasn't asking for proof. It was asking him a question. Was love stronger than biology? The answer should have been simple. But now, a new fear had crept in, not of losing her, but of lying to her, of creating a future where this truth exploded years later, and she asked, "Why didn't you tell me?" He sat down against the wall, closed his eyes. His heart whispered, "She's yours." His mind whispered back, "What if she isn't, and finds out from someone else?" And somewhere in between, Eric realized. Sometimes being a father means protecting your child, even from the truth. But other times, it means having the courage to tell it. The next morning, Eric drove to his sister's house. He needed someone who wasn't in the war, someone who had seen both sides of his life, before and after the storm. Amanda opened the door, sleepy-eyed but alert the second she saw his face. "What happened?" she asked, stepping aside. Eric handed her the letter. She read it in silence, mouth tightening, eyes scanning each line slowly. When she finished, she looked up, frowning. "You think it's true?" Eric shrugged. "I don't know. I don't want to know. But I can't lie to myself anymore pretending the timing doesn't match." Amanda crossed her arms. "So what are you going to do?" "I'm thinking about testing," he said. Privately, quietly. She was quiet for a moment. Then she asked, "Are you testing for her? Or for you?" That hit him harder than expected. Amanda sat beside him. "You're already her dad. Nothing changes that. Not DNA. Not letters. She chose you when she had every reason not to." Eric looked down. "But what if one day she asks? What if someone tells her before I can? Then tell her. When she's older. When it won't break her." He exhaled deeply. "She deserves the truth," he whispered. Amanda nodded. "Yes, but not all truths need to be told now. Some can wait. Some are delivered with love, or they become weapons." Eric knew she was right. But still, the question lingered. Was the truth his to bury, or hers to carry? That night, after Lily went to sleep, Eric pulled out the DNA kit he hadn't burned. A second one, mailed quietly after the first, unopened and untouched. Like fate had given him one more chance to choose. He stared at it on the counter for 10 full minutes. Then he opened it. He swabbed his mouth, sealed it, signed the form, packed the envelope. It didn't feel like betrayal. It felt like an operation, quiet, surgical, necessary. The next morning, he mailed it. No fanfare, no drama. Just a step into a shadowy hallway with no map at the end. That evening, Lily found him sitting alone on the porch, coffee in hand, eyes distant. She climbed into his lap without asking and leaned her head on his chest. "You okay, Dad?" "Yeah," he said softly. "Just thinking too much." She looked up. "About me?" He kissed her forehead. "Always." She smiled. "It's okay to think a lot. Just don't stop being my dad." He hugged her tighter than usual. "I never will. Ever." And as the sun dipped behind the trees, Eric realized, no matter what that envelope came back with, the result couldn't define love, but it could challenge everything built on it. The envelope was due in 3 days. Eric kept himself busy, obsessively so. He cleaned out the garage, repainted the porch railing, and even fixed the leaky kitchen faucet that had annoyed Teresa for years but never got done. Still, the silence clawed at him. Each night, after Lily fell asleep, he'd sit at the kitchen table with his laptop open, staring at nothing, not writing, not reading, just listening. Listening for his own thoughts, trying to hear something other than the echo of doubt. On the third night, he opened a folder on his laptop titled "For Her." Inside were videos, birthday clips, bedtime story recordings, little moments he'd saved during deployments. He clicked one at random. Lily, age 6, dancing in the living room in mismatched socks, holding a wooden spoon like a microphone. "Daddy, watch me." His laugh was audible in the background. Her joy? Radiant. He paused the video. She had his timing, his sarcasm, his eyes. Maybe not, but she had his soul, and that meant more than anything blood could ever claim. It came in a plain white envelope. No logo, no drama, just a name, a barcode, and a verdict inside. Eric stared at it sitting on the mailbox ledge like it had teeth. Lily was at school. The timing was perfect. He brought it inside, placed it on the kitchen table, and sat down. He didn't open it right away. He made coffee, took a shower, swept the living room. Anything to delay what waited inside that folded page. But the weight of it was unbearable. Finally, with trembling hands, he broke the seal and unfolded the paper. Probability of paternity, 0%. The words blurred for a second. He read it again, and again. Each time, the number stayed the same. 0. The chair creaked beneath him as he leaned forward, elbows on the table, head in his hands. He didn't cry. He didn't speak. He just sat there, a father by every definition except the one that could be measured by science. Outside, the wind rustled the trees. Inside, everything stopped. Because this wasn't just a confirmation. It was a quiet, merciless funeral for a belief he'd held onto for over a decade. That night, Eric didn't sleep. He lay in bed staring at the ceiling, his chest tight, with something worse than rage, stillness. Not the kind that brings peace. The kind that settles after a detonation. He knew the truth now. Knew Lily wasn't his by blood. But she was still his daughter. Wasn't she? He thought back to when she was 3 and had her first nightmare. She didn't scream for Teresa. She screamed for him. He remembered cradling her that night until sunrise. He remembered the day she learned to ride a bike, the time she broke her arm at recess, how she'd shouted, "Don't leave me," every time he deployed. That wasn't fake. That wasn't biology. That was real. And yet, the paper on the kitchen counter didn't care. It didn't ask about shared memories. It only declared, "You are not the father." He thought about telling Lily. But how? How do you look a child in the eye and tell them the man they call dad, the man who raised them, isn't theirs by blood? More importantly, why would you? The paper said what it said, but his heart had already decided years ago. Eric didn't knock. He didn't text ahead. He just drove to Teresa's temporary rental and stood on her doorstep with the envelope in hand. She opened the door with tired eyes, a blanket over her shoulders. "Eric." He held the paper out. She took it, unfolded it, and froze. Her eyes scanned the result. Once, twice, then again. She backed up, slowly, as if the paper burned her fingers. "You knew," Eric said, voice like gravel. "That's why you hid the letter." Teresa's mouth opened, but no words came out. "Did you ever plan to tell me?" Tears gathered. I thought she was yours. I prayed she was. I didn't know for sure. And after she was born, and you were so there, I didn't have the courage." Eric stepped closer. "I gave you the chance to tell me. Years. You could have told me during counseling, during the custody hearings, at any point. And you didn't." Teresa collapsed onto the couch, head in her hands. "I thought telling the truth would destroy what little I hadn't already broken." Eric's voice was steady, controlled. "You didn't just betray me. You betrayed her. She trusts you. Even now. I didn't want to ruin her image of family." Eric's jaw tightened. "You already did." He turned and left without waiting for a response. This wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about protecting Lily from the one person who hurt her before and still couldn't stop lying. Eric stared at himself in the bathroom mirror. The word kept echoing, like a taunt, a riddle, a weapon. 0. He didn't cry. He didn't shout. He just watched himself breathe. The man staring back wasn't confused anymore. He was just emptied out. Lily knocked on the door softly. Dad. His throat tightened. One SEC bug. He wiped his face with a towel, straightened his shirt, opened the door. She smiled up at him. Want to see what I made at school? Always. She walked ahead of him, barefoot in oversized pajamas, carrying a construction paper project. A family tree. Eric froze. She pointed to the top. This is you. And this is me. And you used to be in the Navy, so I made little stars around your name. He nodded slowly, fighting the swell behind his chest. See, she added. You're the biggest branch. He smiled. It's perfect. Because to her it was. She had no idea a test in a manila envelope had tried to erase him. But biology couldn't measure what this moment meant. And neither could shame, or betrayal, or Teresa's lies. Eric leaned in and kissed her head. I'll always be your branch, he whispered. That weekend, Eric took Lily to the lake. It wasn't a fancy trip, just them, a small cabin rental, and the woods. She skipped rocks. He grilled hot dogs. They talked about nothing and everything. Animals, art, songs she liked. Then, sitting by the fire that night, she surprised him. Are you mad at Mom? Eric stirred the logs. Why do you ask? She looked sad when I saw her last time. Like she'd been crying a lot. He nodded slowly. Yeah, maybe she has. Are you mad at me? She asked, barely above a whisper. Eric turned sharply. Hey, look at me. She met his eyes, confused, a little scared. You didn't do anything wrong. Ever. I'm proud of you. And I love you more than anything. She nodded but didn't smile. Sometimes, she said, I feel like I broke everything. Eric wrapped his arms around her. You didn't break it, Lily. You were the only thing holding it together. She cried softly into his chest. Eric let her. Because this fire wasn't just for warmth. It was burning away what they didn't need anymore. It was a Tuesday when Eric got the text. I want to talk. Just one conversation. For Lily's sake. Please. Daniel. Eric stared at the message, knuckles white. He didn't want to answer. But part of him knew. This wasn't going away. And if Daniel had any intentions of reaching out to Lily, it needed to be shut down now. He agreed to meet at a public park. No emotion. No surprises. Daniel showed up looking thinner, more hollow, like someone who'd been forced to face his own reflection too many times. Thanks for coming, he said. Eric didn't respond. Daniel sat down on the bench beside him. I got the results too. Teresa told me. Eric still said nothing. Daniel swallowed hard. I'm not asking for anything. I just needed to say, I'm sorry. For what? Eric asked coldly. Sleeping with my wife? Lying to me? Or walking away like a coward? Daniel winced. All of it. But especially Lily. Eric's jaw clenched. I see pictures of her sometimes online. From mutual friends. She looks happy. She is, Eric said. Because she doesn't know you. Daniel nodded slowly. And maybe that's for the best. He stood to leave. You're doing what I never could. I just wanted you to know. If she ever asks, I won't lie. But I won't go looking for her either. Eric finally looked at him. Good, he said. Because if you try, I'll make sure you disappear for good. Daniel didn't argue. He just walked away. And Eric watched the man fade, like a ghost finally retreating from the house it didn't belong in. At bedtime, Lily sat cross-legged on her bed, flipping through a photo album. Dad, yeah. Why do we have different last names? Eric froze. Well, he said carefully, your mom kept hers when we married. And sometimes names stay different even in families. She squinted. But I want us to match. I want to be Lily Monroe. Eric blinked, startled. You sure? She grinned. It sounds cooler. He chuckled. It does sound cool. She paused. Can I? Eric nodded, smile steady. If that's what you want, we'll make it official. Lily beamed. Then I can tell everyone. My name is Lily Monroe, daughter of a real-life Navy superhero. He laughed, pulled her into a hug, and didn't let go for a long time. That night, he stared at her birth certificate. The ink couldn't be changed easily, but the name she chose? That meant more than any signature on a form. The petition to legally change Lily's name had been submitted. Eric sat with her in the waiting area of the family court clerk's office, Lily swinging her legs back and forth from the bench like she was waiting for ice cream, not a legal transformation. "Do you think they'll let me sign it in pink?" she asked, holding a sparkly pen. Eric chuckled. "I don't think color matters. It's what the signature says that counts." A woman in a navy blazer called them in. Inside, a quiet desk clerk smiled at Lily. "You're here to make your name official?" Lily nodded confidently. "I want to be Monroe. Like my dad." The clerk looked at Eric with a warm smile. "We don't get many cases like this. Usually, it's the adults changing for the child, not the child choosing it for themselves." Eric's throat tightened. When Lily wrote her name, Lily Monroe, on the form, her handwriting was slightly messy, the M oversized, the E too small. But to Eric, it was the most beautiful thing he'd ever seen written. No test could undo that. No betrayal could rewrite it. That signature? It was proof that some bonds are chosen, and chosen with pride. A week later, Eric received a formal visitation request from the court. Teresa had applied to see Lily, supervised, 30 minutes. Eric had a choice. He could reject it, delay it, make her wait even longer. But he didn't. He knew that bitterness didn't build better futures. Instead, he agreed. With conditions. Public space. Supervised. No gifts. No whispering. The visit was held in a small playroom at the center. Eric brought Lily in and stood at the door as Teresa sat, hands clasped tightly in her lap. Lily looked at her with cautious eyes. She didn't run into her arms. She didn't smile. She simply said, "Hi." Teresa smiled faintly. "Hi, baby." Lily sat across from her. "I'm not a baby anymore." That cut deeper than Teresa expected. "I know. You've grown so much." There was silence, filled only by the soft clack of a toy truck on the floor. Then Lily spoke again. "I changed my name." Teresa blinked. "I know. Your dad told me. Because he never lied to me." Teresa looked down. "I'm sorry. For all of it." Lily didn't nod. Didn't cry. She just said, "It hurt. But I'm okay now." After 30 minutes, the supervisor gestured. Time was up. Lily stood and walked to Eric, who had waited quietly by the window. As they left, Teresa said one last thing. "Take care of her, Eric." He turned once. Always. With the final custody filing closed, Eric started making changes at home, not to erase the past, but to start clean. The first thing to go was the bedroom Teresa once used. It became a study filled with shelves and Lily's books. A second desk for her schoolwork. Posters of whales, constellations, and a giant hand-painted quote above the window. "We don't always get to choose where we start, but we can choose where we grow." Lily picked at herself. One Sunday, she stood beside him while he drilled the quote into place. "I want this house to be different," she said. "Like, not just fixed. New." Eric nodded. "Then we build new memories. One at a time." They spent that day painting old furniture, cooking pancakes, watching old space documentaries on the couch. That night, Lily tucked herself in and whispered, "I feel safe here." Eric kissed her forehead. "That's the only thing that matters." And for the first time since everything began, the house didn't feel haunted. It felt healed. Eric stood at his father's grave. He hadn't visited in 2 years. The cemetery was quiet, leaves brushing the stones with wind-softened rustles. He placed a folded American flag beside the marble. Lily stood a few steps back, respectfully. Eric spoke aloud. "Dad, I used to think legacy was something you passed down through blood, through name. But I was wrong." He looked over his shoulder at Lily, who waited patiently, watching birds in the nearby tree. "It's not blood. It's sacrifice. It's being there when it matters. It's protecting people even when they don't know they need it." He cleared his throat. "I'm trying to be what you were to me. And maybe a little better." He turned back to the grave. "You'd like her. She's sharp, brave, and stronger than anyone should have to be at her age. He stepped back. Lily walked up and knelt next to the stone, placing a white flower beside the flag. "Hi," she said. "I'm Lily, your granddaughter." Eric blinked. She'd never said that before. Not out loud. He reached for her hand, and in that moment, under the sky, before the grave of the man who raised him, Eric felt something rise from the ground and settle in his chest. Not grief. Not pain. Legacy. The gymnasium buzzed with voices and folding chairs. Parents shifted in their seats, phones ready for recording. On stage, hand-drawn banners read, "Heritage and Heroes Week." Eric sat in the third row, straight-backed, hands clasped, calm on the outside. Inside, he was bracing for impact. Lily hadn't told him much, just that she was doing something special. That's it. He thought maybe she'd made a poster or helped backstage. He didn't expect what came next. Principal Adams took the mic. "This year, one of our students wanted to honor someone close to her heart. Someone who taught her that heroes aren't always in books. Sometimes they're sitting at the dinner table." Eric's eyebrows pulled together. Students clapped politely. Then Lily stepped onto the stage, holding a photo, a framed photo of him. She took the mic, voice a little shaky at first. "My name is Lily Monroe, and I want to talk about my dad." Eric froze. "He didn't teach me how to fly or shoot lasers," she said. "But he taught me something better. How to protect the people you love, even when it hurts." The gym was silent. She looked straight at him from the stage. "He taught me that being strong doesn't mean not crying. It means showing up, even when the world's falling apart." Eric swallowed hard. "He's the reason I feel safe. The reason I believe people can change. And the reason I know I'm never alone." Applause followed. Eric stood, still stunned, then slowly clapped, trying to breathe past the lump in his throat. And in that crowded gym, he didn't just feel like a father. He felt like her hero. That night, after the assembly, Eric sat alone in the backyard, the old lawn chair creaking under him. The sky above was wide, scattered with stars. The kind Lily liked naming, even if she got them wrong. He pulled out his phone and tapped open an old draft message to Teresa. "Never sent. You broke more than a marriage. You broke trust. You broke me." He stared at the blinking cursor. So much had changed. She hadn't requested another visit since the first one, and Lily hadn't asked either. There was nothing left to confront. No war left to wage. Just silence, the kind that settled after the fire, where only ashes remained. Eric stared at the draft. Then, slowly, he deleted it. Not because she deserved peace, but because he deserved freedom. Forgiveness, in the end, wasn't about her. It was about letting go of the weight he no longer needed to carry. It was a Tuesday morning when the judge signed off on the final decree. Custody, permanent. Visitation, dissolved. Birth certificate, amended. Father, Eric Monroe. He received the certified copies in the mail like a package from a world that had finally, officially, caught up with the truth of their lives. Lily sat at the counter doing math homework when he opened the envelope. He stared at the document, the official stamp, the inked line. His name, not just emotionally or functionally, but legally. "Hey, Bug," he said. "Yeah." He handed her the paper. Her eyes scanned it. "Whoa, it's real." "It's real," he said, smiling. She jumped off the stool and wrapped her arms around him, tight and fierce. "Told you they'd figure it out." Eric hugged her back, closing his eyes. "They finally caught up," he whispered. But the truth was, he didn't need the paper. She'd already given him the only title that mattered. Weeks later, on a quiet Sunday afternoon, Eric sat at his desk and started writing. Not for court. Not for Teresa. For Lily. "Dear Bug, one day you may come to me with questions I can't answer quickly. Like why your childhood felt more complicated than others. Or why some people walked away from our lives. Or why some truths took years to reach us. So this letter is for that day. Yes, you weren't born from my blood. But every day, I chose you. From the moment I held you, to the nights I stayed awake just listening to you breathe, you've always been mine. Not because of DNA. Because of love. Because I stood when others fled. Because I listened when others lied. Because you reached for me, and I never let go. If the world ever makes you question who you are, remember this. You are Lily Monroe. Brave, brilliant, and loved beyond reason. And I will always be your father. Forever. Daddy folded it gently, slipped it into an envelope, marked it, open when you're ready. Then he placed it in her memory box, just behind the drawing of her and Superdad. Because some truths don't need to be spoken right away. They just need to be waiting when the time is right. It was Lily's first birthday since the divorce, since the accident, since the courtroom. And for the first time in years, there were no shadows looming over the cake. No forced smiles. No hushed arguments in the kitchen. No strangers pretending to be family. Just Eric, Lily, and a backyard full of honest faces. Amanda was there, grilling hot dogs. Two of Lily's closest school friends chased balloons across the grass. Eric had strung fairy lights around the fence, not for show, just for her. She loved the way they looked like stars that came closer. Lily ran over to him, face flushed, hair messy from laughing. Dad, you have to come. They're making slime, and I promised you'd help. Eric raised his hands in mock horror. You want me to touch that radioactive goo? Yes, she grinned. He followed her into the circle of chaos, kneeling beside her at the table as she carefully poured glitter into a bowl. Her hands were steady. Her smile was bright. Later, as the sun dipped and candles were lit on the cake, Lily stood up without being prompted. I just want to say something, she said, holding her cup of lemonade like a microphone. Everyone quieted. This year was kinda weird, but it was also the best one I've ever had. Because I found out how strong I am. And how lucky I am to have the dad I do. Eric blinked fast, swallowing the knot rising in his throat. And I know not every family looks the same, she added, but mine's perfect now. She didn't need to say anything else. Because sometimes, when the wounds stop bleeding, the healing speaks louder than the pain ever did. It came in the form of a letter. No envelope. Just folded and taped to Eric's front door, when barely holding it in place. He found it early, just after dropping Lily at school. He peeled it from the wood, unfolded it, and read, Eric, this is the last time I'll reach out. I don't expect forgiveness, but I do want you to know I'm leaving town. I need to start over. Away from the weight I put on both of you. You were always the better parent. I see that now. I see a lot of things clearly for the first time, and most of them hurt. But I wanted to thank you. For raising her when I couldn't. For protecting her when I didn't. For giving her the version of family I was too selfish to preserve. Don't tell her unless she asks. Let her feel free to reach out if she ever wants to. But don't keep waiting for me. I'm not part of this chapter anymore. Teresa. Eric stood there a moment longer, the paper in his hand trembling slightly in the breeze. He folded it. Didn't burn it. Didn't toss it. He just placed it in a drawer under the sink. Out of sight, but not hidden. Just like the past, acknowledged, but no longer controlling the room. When Lily came home later, she didn't ask about Teresa. She just ran into the living room, waving a new book from school, excited to read it with him that night. And he smiled, because her joy was no longer fragile. It was whole. It was earned. And Teresa's chapter? It had finally ended, without the need for a single final word from him. The sun hung low over the horizon. Not rushing, not lingering, just present. Eric sat on the porch steps with a mug of black coffee in his hands, watching Lily chase bubbles through the yard. She laughed when one popped on her forehead. The grass was slightly overgrown, wildflowers blooming where they'd once been unwanted weeds. He didn't care. This was home now. Not because it was perfect, but because it was real. Lily ran up the steps and flopped down beside him, breathless. You want to go for a bike ride later? He smiled. You mean the one where I get tired after 10 minutes and you leave me behind? She grinned. Exactly that one. Eric put an arm around her shoulders. She leaned in without hesitation. I saw a new girl at school today, she said. She told me her parents are getting divorced. She cried at recess. Eric looked at her gently. Did you talk to her? I sat next to her. Told her it gets better. That sometimes it takes a long time, but the pain doesn't last forever. Eric's chest swelled. That's a brave thing to say. She looked up at him. It was true, right? He kissed her forehead. Yeah, bug. It's true. The breeze picked up. A few of the bubbles still drifted in the air, soft and stubborn. Inside, their life was quiet. No screaming. No slammed doors. No secrets. Just pages being turned, gently. And in that calm, Eric realized something. Peace isn't something you find. It's something you fight for. Day by day. Breath by breath. That night, Eric tucked Lily into bed like he always did. She asked for her favorite story, not from a book, but from his memory. The one where you saved me, she said. He smiled, sat down beside her bed, and began. It started on the day you were born. I held you and realized. I didn't care where you came from. You were mine. Every breath, every cry, every little fist gripping my shirt. She giggled. And even when the world tried to lie to us, tried to tear us apart, we didn't let it. You know why? She nodded. Because you're the shield. That's right, he said. And I always will be. She reached under her pillow and pulled out the photo, the crayon drawing of them both in superhero capes. Do I get a cape now too? She asked. Eric laughed softly. You've had one all along. She closed her eyes, and within minutes, her breathing slowed into the rhythm only peace can bring. Eric stepped out into the hallway, leaned against the wall, and let it hit him. The war was over. The damage had been real, deep, and painful, but so was the healing. And sometimes, the deepest victories come not from revenge, but from rising without it. He looked toward the camera, toward the audience, and for the first time, he asked something back. If you lost everything, who would you fight to become? Now yes, you watching this from your room, your office, your phone, take a second. Where are you watching from? Drop it in the comments. Let us know where this story found you. And if this story made your heart ache, your chest tighten, or your eyes water just a little, tap that like button, not for the algorithm, but for Lily. For every real-life Lily and Eric out there rebuilding what others broke. And if you're still with us, subscribe. Not because we said something perfect, but because we told the truth. Until next story, protect your peace. Protect your people. Be the shield.